Hey, back to Archie. No, welcome to the inaugural edition of Real Take Football Talk, the show where we talk about every single game slated for this wonderful opening Sunday of NFL football. I'm excited, as you can tell. We got a lot to get to. We got a lot to talk about. Before we do, please be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. There we are. We're back, finally. Took us long enough. Anyway, the Bucs beat the Dallas Cowboys in opening weekend in a classic opening weekend game where the Cowboys ended up losing. That's what usually happens. Cowboys lose low. But today we have an amazing slate of games. We have the debut of Trevor Lawrence taking on the Houston Football Texans. We have the Los Angeles Chargers, formerly of San Diego, taking on the Washington Football Team. Some of these names are amazing. You also got the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Colts. Jets taking on the Panthers in a revenge match for Sam Darnold, who was formerly the first-round pick for the Jets just last year, or played for them just last year, rather. Vikings taking on the Bengals. Cardinals taking on the Titans. 49ers with Jimmy G back under center. We'll see for how long, taking on the Lions and the newly acquired quarterback for them, Jared Goff. We'll also have probably the headline of the 1 p.m. matchups, the Steelers going up to Buffalo and taking on the Buffalo Football Bills. That'll be an interesting game that we will talk about just in a little bit. The Eagles will take on the Falcons, and then to our 4 p.m. slate of games, the Browns versus the Chiefs, which is a huge primetime matchup that probably deserved to be the Sunday night game. It's not. We'll get to that in a little bit. But Browns taking on the Chiefs. Chiefs are the Cleveland is 0-15, I believe, in Week 1 games since 2005. We'll see if they can kind of avenge that as things seem to be changing in the land. The Packers taking on the Saints. These are teams that usually we'd expect to have a very big game, a shootout rather, but no Drew Brees, no guarantees. Jameis Winston, we'll see what he's got today. Also, Denver taking on the Giants in a matchup of two teams that are very similar to each other, but note here, Denver has a 67% winning percentage in Week 1 games, so and that's the highest in the league since 1970. We'll see if they can keep that momentum going. And a division matchup between the Dolphins and the Patriots. The Patriots are going to be starting Mac Jones at quarterback. The Dolphins going to see what Tua is about. And finally, the Sunday night game, Chicago will take on the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday Night Football to close out the week at 8:20 p.m. live on NBC, Peacock, and wherever else you can watch it. And it's going to be the opening matchup at SoFi Stadium up in LA. So lot to get to, lot to talk about. We're glad you're here. If you're here, please hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and ask some questions in the chat. It's a very relaxed, very chill show this week. Actually, it's going to be a very chill show every week, but it's football. Football's back. Be excited. Be excited. Be very excited. Anyway, so I said we talk about the big games, right? And honestly, arguably rather, the biggest game of the 1 p.m. slot of games is the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Buffalo Bills. So we've seen it. Big Ben, he's back for what likely will be his final season under center for the Steelers. There was a lot of talk about retirement. There was a lot of talk about whether or not he would be, the best option at quarterback for them this offseason. And for the Bills, they're looking to repeat their stellar year from last year. They went 12-4. Josh Allen balled out. We saw a change in how seriously people took the Buffalo Bills, because before they were a team that were on the rise. They made the playoffs. They were one and done. But now things seem to be changing. They are a juggernaut in the entire conference, right up there with Baltimore, right up there with Kansas City. This is a team that's going to do some damage in the playoffs, and we've seen can. And they showed up in the AFC Championship game last year, got beat by the Chiefs, but it was a really good game, a really close game for a while. So they're coming off of that momentum. The Steelers, rather, it looks like they're on the downswing compared to the Bills, who are on an upswing. So the conventional wisdom would tell you to pick the Bills over Pittsburgh. We'll get to my prediction on that in just a minute. But if you look at the teams that both of these squads have kind of developed this offseason, the Buffalo Bills have gotten back to, just getting people back, which is what they did. And I think creating more chemistry, creating better chemistry, working together. That's what they were focused on. That's where they are on their team. The Steelers, they lost Bud Dupree. TJ Watt right here, who just became one of the highest defensive players in NFL history. He's got a $112 million contract. He's coming back here, but is he going to be enough? Not doubting TJ Watt's abilities as a defender, but but is he enough for this defense to be as elite as it was to begin the year last year? Because they kind of fell off. And that's something we've seen the Steelers do. That's something we've seen a lot of teams that we crown early in the season do. And the other question, obviously, is Big Ben. Big Ben is someone who notoriously in his career gets injured very frequently. The injury bug hasn't plagued him a lot yet, but with him, it's one of those things where it's only a matter of time. Not that I'm saying I want him to get injured. I'm just saying that's what always ends up happening, and it's also the way he kind of plays football. He's even last year, down the stretch, he was not just a pocket passer. He was eluding people because they didn't have a running game. Now, does Najee Harris kind of mitigate that a little bit? I think so, maybe. Yeah, sure. But the key for the Steelers is, I think, establishing that running game. If they are able to establish the running game this season, they could be very successful. And if not, and if it's constantly in the hands of Big Ben, if it's constantly up to Big Ben to throw the ball 40, 50 times a game and try to win, at this point, I don't think that's going to be enough for them to sustain success. We saw what happened last year when they had a better defense, when they had Big Ben playing good ball. And then they just fell off. They started 11-0, finished 1-4. There's a reason for that. They didn't. Their offense wasn't dynamic enough to keep up. People figured them out, and people gave Ben trouble down the stretch. So this was honestly one of the easier games for me to pick, though. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think the story of this is Buffalo's a team on the upswing. Pittsburgh is a team on the downswing. I got Buffalo in this 38-24. I just think the Buffalo attack is going to be too much with Stephon Diggs and them boys up there. I think Josh Allen is out to prove that not only that last year wasn't just a fluke, that he is the real deal. I'm picking Buffalo in this one. And yeah, I should mention I am also a Ravens fan. However, that does not change the facts that I stated earlier in this video. That does not change the facts that I just stated. Pittsburgh, like I said, a good, solid football team, but a team that I don't believe has everything it needs to keep up with Buffalo at this point. And it depends on Najee Harris. It depends on that offensive line, too. That offensive line is not, it's not the greatest in the world either. So there's a lot for them to figure out, I believe, throughout this season. And I think they possibly could. They might even. But if you're asking me day one, do they have everything figured out? Day one, do they know like that, oh, Najee Harris is our guy? I don't know. We don't know until they all step out on the football field. So we'll see what happens with that. Guys, if you haven't already, please be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Moving on, let's talk about one of the biggest revenge games of Week 1. Actually, you can argue that this is the biggest revenge game of Week 1, which is the New York Jets going into Carolina to take on Sam Darnold and the Carolina Panthers. A big revenge game for Sam Darnold. He was a first-round pick for the Jets a few years back. He recently got traded this offseason after the Jets got the number 2 pick in the draft. They selected Zach Wilson, traded him to Carolina. He's gone. Sam Darnold has a new team, a new beginning, and it begins very fittingly with him at home in Carolina taking on the New York Jets. Zach Wilson, again, will be making his first start, so a lot to watch there. Sam Darnold, I think, is a guy, and I just want to very quickly touch on this. Sam Darnold is a guy that I think should have worked out, and I think possibly can work out in Carolina, probably will work out in Carolina because even though he had Adam Gase, even though he had a putrid offensive line, even though he had not the best pieces outside of Robbie Anderson around him, who he now has in Carolina, even though all those factors are true, I think that the thing that kind of sunk Sam Darnold in New York was the fact that they just can't develop quarterbacks. That's just not what they do up there. They don't know how to do it. They don't take the time investment. They don't take the serious approach or the correct approach rather in investing in a first round pick. That's why 3 years down the line, you see after 3 seasons he's done, and it wasn't all his fault. He wasn't terrible. Sam Darnold for a long stretch was their best player. We saw what happened when he went out. No disrespect to Joe Flacco, it wasn't the same team, not at all, not in the slightest. Sam Darnold was the lifeblood of that team for a very long time. He was the only player on that team that was actually starting caliber for a while. So I think he was kind of a scapegoat. They saw an opportunity to get a young guy. They didn't know if they wanted to re-sign Sam Darnold, and I get it from that logistical standpoint. So Zach Wilson is the guy now in New York, and there's a lot of pressure there. There is a lot of pressure. Sam Darnold, who he'll be facing today, can probably tell him about that. There is a lot of pressure to succeed. There's a lot of pressure to not fail in the eyes of many New York Jets fans and many people in New York. The New York media, the New York sports media is ruthless. They will run him out of town if he doesn't show even a little bit of improvement from last year, or the team doesn't show a little bit of improvement from last year. So he's got a lot on his shoulders. I think that Zach Wilson is a very capable thrower. I think that Zach Wilson has things that I like. He's got a huge arm. He's got the look. I like his ability to improvise a little bit. The biggest question is it going to be enough to overcome the pitfalls of that team? Is it going to be enough for Zach Wilson to overcome an offensive line that isn't the best, a running game that isn't the best, a wide receiving core that has Sims, has a few pieces, but isn't the best, a defense whose best player in C.J. Mosley hasn't played in 2 years now? There's a lot of questions on this New York Jets team. On the flip side, the Panthers, I feel like there's not that many questions on this team. We kind of know what they are. The Carolina Panthers are a team that will compete with a lot of... I liken them to the Buffalo Bills, not from last year, but like 2-3 years ago when they were competitive, but they were still a team that had a little ways to go. That's where I see the Carolina Panthers right now. They're going to be competitive this year. I think pairing Sam Darnold and Robbie Anderson was an amazing idea. I think those two had great chemistry in what was arguably Sam Darnold's best season 2 years ago. So you pair those two together, they have that chemistry, they have that ability. This defense is getting better. They're slowly crawling back up into not only relevancy. I think they are pretty relevant, at least for people who've been paying attention to the team, but they are crawling back up, I think, into the playoffs. And look, there's 7 teams making the playoffs this year. I'm not gonna go on a limb and say, oh, they're definitely one of those teams, but they could be. They could surprise people this year, and I think they could. So this game, I see Sam Darnold getting revenge on his former team. I got Sam Darnold and the Carolina Panthers beating the Jets, walloping the Jets, eviscerating the New York Football Jets 24-3. I think that the Jets just are not a good team. I picked them to go 1-16 this year. And look, it's not out of hatred for Jets. It's not out of the hatred for anyone. It's about where I think this team is at. This team is still not a good football team. They got worse, I think, at the quarterback position. And that's not Zach Wilson's fault. And I don't think they put enough pieces around Zach Wilson to ensure his success. And that's what you have to do. If you're trying to develop a young quarterback, if you're trying to develop a great young guy in Zach Wilson and develop him to the best of his ability, the one thing you have to do is put solid pieces around him. And I don't think they put enough solid pieces around him to make him as good as they probably think he is. Because I still think he was probably a second-round quarterback who could come in and do some good things on an already good team, or come in and learn and get better. I just don't see him being, the franchise guy. And I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong. Zach Wilson seems like a nice guy. Hopefully he does well, and hopefully you guys are too. Happy Sunday to everybody. Welcome to the channel. If you haven't already, please hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. So let's move on and talk about another one of these 1 p.m. games, these wonderful 1 p.m. games that's happening today. And this is where it gets interesting, because I talked about the Jets. I talked about some big market teams. Let's kind of switch gears a little bit here and talk about two teams that people don't normally spend a lot of time talking about, and that is the Los Angeles, because I always say San Diego when I say this, the Los Angeles Chargers and the Washington football team of Landover, Maryland. Washington. So Washington is going to be taking on the Chargers today. Justin Herbert enters his second year. We saw he balled out, 31 touchdowns, 10 interceptions in 15 games. That kid is for real. That team could be for real this year and make some noise behind Kansas City in that AFC West. You also got Washington. Fitzpatrick is the quarterback now. They had a little bit of a battle in training camp to see whether it would be him or Taylor Heineke. They are, I think, the best defensive line in football. That defense is very, very good. It kept them in the division. It got them to 7-9 in the NFC East, which apparently was a huge accomplishment because it won them the division and won them a home playoff game. They gave the Tampa Bay, they were the last team to really give the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a run for their money in the playoffs. The Packers, you could argue, but I don't really count them because the coaching just wasn't comparable. We'll get to that another day, but I like this game. I think it's going to be an interesting game. Not too high scoring. I see San Diego defeating Washington 23-16. I think Justin Herbert, he's coming off of a great year. He's coming off of being Rookie of the Year. I think he is a guy who's going to elevate his team even further than he did last year. This team has a big chance to make the playoffs, and even though I have Washington losing, that defense is going to give Justin Herbert some trouble. If the Washington football team wins this game, it is because they got pressure in the face of Herbert, and they got it quickly. So it's a little bit about scheming. It's a little bit about protecting the guy, but I like my chances taking the Chargers in this game. But like I said, watch out for that defensive front of Washington. Another game that people have their eyes on, that I most certainly will have my eye on, is the game involving the number 1 overall pick, Trevor Lawrence, and the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Houston Texans with Tyrod Taylor starting at quarterback. Yes, Tyrod Taylor will be starting at quarterback for the Houston football Texans after there was a little bit of controversy. You might have heard it this offseason. There's some very serious allegations against Deshaun Watson, and he's not playing football right now. He's not suspended. However, he asked for a trade, and then these allegations come up, and then there's a lot of they're still trying to figure out what happened. He is currently inactive. He's on the 53-man roster, but he is currently an inactive quarterback. So Tyrod Taylor gets the nod here, and we're going to see a matchup between two very evenly matched teams because both of these teams don't have too much talent. I think the talent really starts and ends a lot with the quarterback position. It does actually. That's pretty much true. Although I will say the running backs, you got on one side Chris Robinson, who I think is a stud. I think he's going to steady the ship. I hope he is for my fantasy football purposes. But regardless of that, he is going to steady the ship there in the backfield, even though they don't have Travis Etienne. On the flip side, for the Texans, they have Mark Ingram. They have Corey. What's his name? Philip Lindsay. I almost called him Corey Linsley again, but they got Philip Lindsay. They got some bodies in there and people who recently have made some production. So there's a chance for them to have a stay in this game. But I think the Texans are a team that are just they don't one. I think they're just in a state where they don't know what's going on. And it's not the players. I think it's the organization. I think it's the coaching. they are in such a weird place, a weird rebuild. This team is just destined, I think, to lose. I think I had them at like what 2 and I had them at like 2-15 this year, and I think it's gonna start today. I got the Jacksonville Jaguars beating the Houston Football Texans today, 20-10. I think Trevor Lawrence rather has a pretty good game. I know that there's this big stat out there. The number one overall picks apparently are like what 12-1 in week one starts since like 2004. But I don't think that's gonna hurt him too much. I think Trevor Lawrence is gonna. This is a good first team for him to face because they're very, like I said, very comparable. You could argue this is the first tank bowl of the year, but two very comparable teams in talent. I got the Jacksonville Jaguars beating the Houston Texans in this one. Anyway, let's move on and talk about another one of these 1 p.m. games that a lot of people have their eye on. That is the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Indianapolis Colts. The Seahawks are trying to get back on a Super Bowl run after not appearing in a Super Bowl since 2014 when they didn't run the ball on the 1-yard line. That seemed to have derailed a lot of their success, even though they have made the playoffs, made an NFC Championship game, I believe, but they haven't been the same team since. Meanwhile, back in Indy, no more Jacoby Brissett, no Andrew Luck, however. They do have a franchise guy, or someone they believe to be a franchise guy, in Carson Wentz, who they traded for, a second-round pick for Carson Wentz. And look, I think this is going to be a very intriguing matchup. It's going to be interesting to see what Carson Wentz has after he missed a lot of time in training camp because of that injured ankle. He had that injured ankle. We don't know if he's going to be 100%, but no one's 100% in football, if we're being real. But I think this is going to be a very, very good game. Seattle is coming, I think, trying to prove something. They have Russell Wilson, who, pound for pound, I think is one of the most valuable players in NFL history to his team. I liken him to a Peyton Manning with the Colts. Like, that Colts team ran with Peyton Manning and ran on Peyton Manning. That was their fuel. That was their lifeline. That was their entire legacy. And just like that, just like we think Peyton with the Colts, what he meant to that team, we're gonna be thinking like 4 or 5 years down the line about Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks team, because there's maybe Lamar Jackson and Pat Mahomes. Outside of those two, there's no one who means more to his team than Russell Wilson means to the Seahawks, and that's just facts. Indianapolis, one of the most well-coached teams in the NFL. Frank Reich, in my opinion, gets a lot out of more out of his players than most coaches do. He is the most underrated coach in the NFL today. Somehow this team is always competitive, even though they might not always have a winning record. They'll still go like 7-9. They'll still go this is a good football team, a well-coached football team, and a football team that has a good defense, good offensive line, and finally a quarterback. We'll see if Carson Wentz can get his career back on track. Today in this game, though, I got Seattle taking this 30-24. I think Seattle starts the season hot. I think they're going to be a team to watch for potentially to go on a little bit of an undefeated streak to at least start the season. Not saying they're going undefeated, but at least to start the season, I think they're going to go on a little bit of a run here. They have some good games. Indianapolis, on the flip side, I think, even if they lose today, it's not going to be a big deal. They're still going to be in the divisional hunt with the Titans for the long haul. Again, this team is a tough defense, but I think Seattle and Russell Wilson, and look, that Seattle defense, they got better this offseason. They got a little better, so we'll see what they can do. I got Seattle in this one, 30-24, and moving on to another game, another 1 p.m. game, because there's actually like 15 of those today. But another 1 p.m. game that people are talking about, or that actually no one is talking about. What am I saying? The Vikings are taking on the Bengals. And yes, no, I'm right. No one's talking about it because who cares about the Vikings and the Bengals? It's like, no, I do. That's why I made this wonderful graphic. Anyway, Vikings taking on the Bengals. Minnesota looks to improve on their 7-9 year last year. Their third year, I believe, out of 4 with Kirk Cousins not making the playoffs. I believe that's true. It's either 3 out of 4 or 2 out of 3. It's early in the day. I'm still putting my brain on, but I think it's going to be more of the same for this team this year. Joe Burrow also makes his return. He had a very good start to last year. The Bengals were competitive in games he was in, and even in games he was not in. So I think Zach Taylor might be a part of that too. But this is going to be a very interesting game to see who wins between the Vikings and the Bengals. if Joe Burrow stays upright, if he doesn't get hurt, if the offensive line does its job against that tough Vikings front, I got the Bengals no problem in this one. I have them right now 28-24, assuming Joe Burrow doesn't get hurt. And I hate saying that, but that is the assumption to go with this team because of just how it's constructed. It has the pieces, it has some skill players, it has the quarterback position all figured out, but the trenches, it needs a little work. But I got the Bengals in this one. They're going to be competitive this year with Joe Burrow. Without Joe Burrow, even a little bit, they'll be a little competitive in their division. But I mean, it's still going to be a tough season for Cincinnati. There's just too many good teams in their division, and they're missing crucial pieces, I think, that would make up the gap to make them a playoff team. But on the flip side, the Vikings, I know they usually start seasons hot. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. I think they're going to be have a little bit of the Atlanta Falcons effect, which is start the season slow and then, maybe win like 4 or 5 games down the stretch. And then you're kind of like, why'd we win those games? Because we just made our draft pick worse and we weren't in the playoffs. But look for the Vikings to have that type of season. It's just that type of vibe. I think Kirk Cousins is not a good leader. He's a fine quarterback. He's a good quarterback, but he's not great. He's not elite. He's not worth the first 2 fully guaranteed contracts in NFL history. Also, I think the Vikings in general, that defense did not get better. It's gonna be an interesting year. Look for more of the same from the Minnesota Vikings. Now, one team we can expect more of the same from are both the Tennessee Titans and the Cardinals. And by more of the same, I mean making progress. The Titans this offseason went off and got Julio Jones or Julio Jones, whatever you want to call him. They got their man, they got their guy. The main target now for Ryan Tannehill and the Tennessee Titans offense. They're bringing back Derrick Henry. He just came off of a 2,000-yard rushing season. Pair it all off with that wonderful defense, that amazing defense. Losing Art Smith, which I don't think is people are talking about as much as they probably should. Having Mike Vrabel there, though, I think will steady the ship. I think they have a good coaching tree, some good coaches up there, well-coached players from the past, so they'll be fine. The Cardinals, though, they are looking to improve. Cliff Kingsbury, we'll see what he's worth this year as Arizona tries to make the playoff push. But Kyler Murray, he's the guy, and they go as far as he goes. They brought in J.J. Watt to add a little bit something to that defense. They'll bring him in as a rotational piece for that pass rush. I think he'll fit very good in there. DeAndre Hopkins as well is over there, so we'll see what happens with them. Interesting game. I went out on a limb here, and I said this is going to be a very close game, 28-27 Arizona. And the reason I say that is because I think they're a younger team, and I think the Titans are going to take a little bit not a little bit, like maybe 2-3 games to kind of figure out where they are and who they are and kind of figure themselves out, and then they'll be set to improve on that 11-5 start or 11-5 season they had last year. But Titans are they're right up there. They're a very good team, but I got the Cardinals in this one by 1 point, 28-27. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a good game. That's the biggest thing I can say. It's going to be a good game. Moving on, let's talk about the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Detroit Lions. Detroit, that's what I said. Detroit Lions brought in Jared Goff. He's going to start his first game as Detroit's starting quarterback. Jimmy G, he's coming in. He's going to start for San Francisco. We'll see how long that lasts as they traded up in the draft to draft Trey Lance from North Dakota State, number 3 overall. So Jimmy G out here basically playing for his job here every single week. The leash is probably really short on him. I think it's good they went with Jimmy G, though. He's a guy who, when healthy, has proven he can work on this team and has proven he can take this team to the Super Bowl. So I don't think there's a huge rush, or there should be, and I don't think there actually is. I'm not going to lie to you. There's not a huge rush to put in Trey Lance. I think Jimmy G, if he's healthy, he's going to remain the starter. He's going to play his game, and they're going to be fine. And when Trey Lance is ready or when they want to make that move, they'll make that move. But I think Jimmy G, when healthy, this 49ers team, with the running game they have, that amazing defense they have, I think they're going to be unstoppable against a lot of these teams like the Lions especially. But I think this is a tough team to face, the 49ers. Just if they're healthy, again, big if. Because we've seen last year, we've seen the years before, this team has not been healthy. But when healthy, this team is nobody to mess with. 29-17. I got the San Francisco 49ers, Jimmy G, beating the Lions. The Lions are a team that I think are going to surprise some people. They're not going to surprise anyone this week, though. They are who we thought they were. Down the line, I could see them getting better and winning some games. But right now, the 49ers, week 1, Jimmy G playing for his entire career, basically, at this point. His future, his current, his past, his present. I got him redeeming himself a little bit in this game. 29-17. Anyway, let's move on and talk about one of the premier matchups of the 4 p.m. time slot, and that would, of course, be the Green Bay Packers taking on the New Orleans Saints. So, the New Orleans Saints obviously have had a little bit of some changes in the offseason. Out goes Drew Brees and his Hall of Fame career over to NBC to commentate for Sunday Night Football. And in comes Jameis Winston. In comes Taysom Hill. A little bit of a battle there during the offseason. We saw what these quarterbacks could do. Jameis Winston impressed in one game in the preseason. That basically won him the job. Taysom Hill, you could argue, is a more dynamic quarterback. I would argue is a more dynamic quarterback. But me being the New Orleans Saints, being Sean Payton, thought that Jameis Winston was a better option. He is a more conventional quarterback. He can throw the ball the length of the field probably if he wanted to, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but that's the route they took. But the problem for them is they are running into a Green Bay Packer team quarterbacked by the person right now in the NFL who probably has the biggest chip on his shoulder in NFL history, and that is Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers had a very tense offseason with the Green Bay Packers organization. He obviously didn't show up to training camp until just a few weeks ago. They had contract talks. Those fell through. They had trade talks. Those fell through. And Aaron Rodgers was obviously not happy with some of the decisions that the Green Bay Packers were making, which I think has fueled him. He's said that he's in a good place. He's going to play out this year, and I think he is. He's definitely going to. I know. He's going to play out this year. That's not a question. Question is what's going to happen next year. But I think Aaron Rodgers is the type of guy. We saw what he did with just a little bit of a chip on his shoulder last year after the drafting of Jordan Love. He went out there and won an MVP. Look for more of the same from him this year. I got in this game, I have who do I have? Where's my thing at? I mean, I know who I have, but I'm trying to look at the score. But, okay. So, in this game, I have Green Bay demolishing the New Orleans Saints 42-21. I think Aaron Rodgers comes in with a mighty fury, throws 6 touchdowns and no interceptions, 314 yards. And Jameis does what Jameis does. He'll have like 300 yards passing. He'll have 3 touchdowns. I'll give him 2 picks. Two pick Jameis today. But I think that this Green Bay Packer team is dangerous, and it has nothing to do with anyone but Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers himself is going to will this team back to another NFC Championship game, back into contention for a title. And this might be the year he leads the Green Bay Packers to the Super Bowl and then ends up leaving because he's Aaron Rodgers and he freaking can, and that's what big ballers like Aaron Rodgers do. But we'll see what happens there. But again, 42-21, I got the Green Bay Packers in a tar and feathering. A tar and feathering. When's the last time you heard that expression of the New Orleans Saints? New Orleans is going to be, I think, a good team. I think, but they're going to take a step back. I got them taking a step back this year. They lost Drew Brees. They're still trying to they're going to spend some time figuring out what they are and who they are. I think Jameis Winston was probably not the right decision. It's not the move I would have made, but again, I'm not a head coach, so who knows? Who cares what I think? I'm sure you lovely people do, and if you do care what I think, please be kind and hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Real Take Football every single Sunday morning, coming to you live or pre-recorded, whatever I decide on that day. But what is coming to you live every single Tuesday and Wednesday, Tuesday nights, Real Take Wrestle Talk, where we talk about everything that happened this week in wrestling. And Wednesday nights, Real Take Sports Talk, where we talk about everything that happened this week in sports and a few other videos in between. But shilling out of the way, let's move on and talk about the premier game of the 4 p.m. time slot, in my opinion, and that is the Browns, who are taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs, I should say. The Browns obviously made big strides last year. They finished the year 10-6. They made the playoffs for the first time in a very long time. First time since, I believe, 2002, when they had Tim Couch and them boys, and then time ran out in the clock in Pittsburgh, and here we are. But Cleveland seems like they're back. They're contenders. They're looking to avenge their loss to Kansas City. And Kansas City, by default, they're looking to avenge their loss from the Super Bowl to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when that entire team just folded. They're out to prove who they are, what they're about. And look for this guy, Pat Mahomes, to prove it today. Mecole Hardman, he's dealing with a bit of an injury, but he's going to be fine. Tyreek Hill is fine. They still have early morning jitters. I don't know what it is. I think my voice is just very dry. I need to drink some water. But they still have some great pieces around Patrick Mahomes that make him even greater somehow than he even is, because he's already, I think, the best quarterback to ever play the game. Is he the greatest? He's got a lot to prove before we say he's the greatest. But going to this game, I think it's going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be a very entertaining game. Both these teams got a lot of offensive firepower. OBJ, by the way, coming back for the land, coming back for Cleveland. That's going to be a difference maker this year. Two-headed monster at running back and Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. This is going to be an offensive showcase in this game, but I'm going to have Kansas City taking it home 45-38 in a big shootout. And Cleveland, could they win? Sure, but I don't think Kansas City is going to lose this one. The Legend of Jeff in the chat says, Mahomes is coming. All NFL teams are doomed. Mahomes is coming for the blood. We've only seen... All NFL teams are doomed. Mahomes is coming for blood. We've only seen him nice now. He is pissed. So we got Jeff in the chat saying that Mahomes is going to be out for blood like Aaron Rodgers was last year, because we saw a lot of nice Aaron before that, and last year we saw pissed off, I'm going to go out and win an MVP. Fuck you, Green Bay Packers Aaron. But we could see that offensive line did get a little better. Again, I'm of the opinion that over time, like after 4 years in a row going to the playoffs and going deep in the playoffs, those long playoff runs can take a toll on your team, and it's been proven to happen. We'll see if they can overcome that. If there's any team, if there's any player that can, it's Patrick Mahomes. I need to stop calling him Pat. It's Patrick Mahomes. But yeah, 45-38 in what I think is going to be an opening Sunday classic. Amazing shootout. Baker Mayfield's going to have a few touchdowns, but Nick Chubb, I think, will have like 2-3 touchdowns. Pat Mahomes might end up having goddamn near like 6 touchdowns, because that's what he does on a regular basis. But I got the Browns taking the L in week 1. They're gonna be fine though. Moving on, let's talk about a few teams that, again, we don't really normally talk about, but don't get the shine that they deserve. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Two teams that don't get the shine that they deserve, and I think they probably should be talked about a little bit more than they are. Denver Broncos and the New York Football Giants. Although if you live in New York, I'm sure you hear enough about how Daniel Jones is still a franchise quarterback, and how Daniel Jones will lead the Giants to the Super Bowl just like Eli Manning did. That is not true. Not happening. I like you, Daniel, but you're not the guy. I'm not even a Giants fan, but I still like you, Daniel. Anyway, This is going to be a very good game to watch, I think, if you're a fan of defense, because you can argue that these are two pretty decent defenses. At least in the Broncos are a good defense. The Giants, I think, this year are going to be a good defense. Quarterback play is going to be the thing to not watch, though, as Daniel Jones basically playing for his future to begin the year. They're going to see if they pick up the fifth-year option on him. I doubt they will. He's kind of in a very, very shitty situation, because I don't think he was a franchise guy when they drafted him, and they'd never put the right pieces around him to make him successful. Teddy Bridgewater, he's kind of a placeholder, if we're being honest, because Drew Lock apparently lost out the job. So Teddy Bridgewater is the guy. They got Melvin Gordon back there. We'll see what they can do, but I think he's basically the placeholder until Aaron Rodgers comes over, which is, I think, a big assumption that a lot of people are making, but we'll see if that ends up happening. So yeah, this is gonna be I think a lower scoring game, 17-14 Broncos in this one. I think Teddy Bridgewater won't make the mistake that I think Daniel Jones probably will, and that's why that was a difference in this game for me. Also better defense, and again, Saquon is back, yes, and that is good, and I like Saquon, but the Giants just don't have it. They just don't, and Daniel Jones isn't providing it. He's playing for his life. He's playing for his career at this point, his future in New York. And that future looks dimmer and dimmer every day. Every day he doesn't show that he is a franchise quarterback. It's just not working. And there's a lot of Giants fans out there who will say, oh, well, we need to put pieces around him to be successful. You should have done that 2 years ago when you drafted him. Or you should have not drafted him and waited. Or you should have made him a backup and signed someone else who like Teddy Bridgewater, who can steady the ship. And not put him in the line of fire. Wait till he's ready. Wait till your team is ready. That's not what they did, though. Put him in the line of fire, and as soon as you're in the line of fire like that, there are expectations put on you. There are expectations put on you, and he never met those expectations, and it's not his fault. It is the fault of an organization that didn't manage. The fault of Dave Gettleman, who didn't manage the team right. So, if you want looking for someone to blame, don't blame Daniel Jones. Blame Dave Gettleman. I argue Dave Gettleman should be gone before Daniel Jones. I would say this. Unless you get a very high draft pick. If you're in a position where you can take a really good quarterback like Rattler or one of them boys, you might stick with Daniel Jones for a year, trade down in the draft, accumulate some picks, and then build around that team. Because Daniel Jones, I think, can be successful with a very good defense and a good offensive line and running game. He can be successful with that. The Giants can be successful with that. But this team isn't the 07 Giants. They're not the 2012 Ravens. They're not the 2000 Ravens. They are not the 2005 Pittsburgh Steelers. They don't have a great defense. They don't have a great offensive line. They could have a great running game if Saquon Barkley stays on the field. Again, I love Saquon. And I think he's going to be great when he comes back. And I'm hoping he comes back to full strength. But we got to see if he does. So, lots of things to figure out for the Giants. There's too many questions there. The Broncos, again, they're a team that we don't really have too many questions on because we kind of know where they are. Middle of the pack team. Look for them to go 18 or 17 games here. So, 7-10, 7-10, 8-9, right about there. That's this team. That's just about that's their floor and their ceiling, honestly. But I got Denver in this one, 17-14. Another 4 p.m. matchup to watch. A divisional matchup between two AFC teams that are looking to make the playoffs after, one team surprised some people, another team didn't really. The Dolphins went 10-6 last year, missed the playoffs, obviously, in that very tough AFC wildcard fight. Tua enters his second year with a lot to prove. There's a lot of talk about trading. They benched him multiple times for Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's gone now. It is Tua's team, but there's talk about trading him away for Deshaun Watson as a package piece. So there's questions about Tua. Is he the guy there? He's got a lot to prove this year. Mac Jones making his NFL debut. The Patriots cut Cam Newton. So Tua Tagovailoa versus Mac Jones. The rivalry in the AFC East that we're going to see for hopefully the next at least 5 to 10 years. This is going to be a very interesting opening chapter to their story. I think that the Patriots, they went out in free agency. They got a lot of people. They get a lot of pieces. Hunter Henry. They went out and got Jonnu Smith, Matthew Judon. They brought back Kyle Van Noy. So, and they got better on defense because the reason that their defense kind of took a step back last year was because they had 8 players, or so it was 8 players who opted out for COVID reasons. A lot of those players are back. They got a lot better. Bill Belichick spent money in free agency. He drafted a guy who he thinks can be successful in Mac Jones. This team is going to be in the fight. They are going to be right there in the fight for not only a winning record, but for a playoff spot, a wild card spot, definitely. Division, I still think it's the Bills, but I have Miami taking the L here. I have New England, the New England Patriots winning this game 31-21 behind Mac Jones, who I think will have a decent game, but it's going to be more about the running game, more about the defense, and methodical drives. Look for this team to kind of slow things down for Mac Jones, and don't throw Xavier Howard's way, bro. Don't throw his way. That's the one piece of advice I'll give Mac Jones. And Tua, all I will say is this. Make your reads, dude. Make your reads. Go through your progressions. You will be fine. And I hope he will be. And I hope you guys are also fine as we head into our final. Hold up. Let me make sure. Yep. Yep. Our final prediction for this NFL Sunday. Our final game that we're going to talk about for this NFL Sunday in the Sunday night football game between the Chicago Bears, the Bears, as some people say, and the Los Angeles Rams. Andy Dalton, of course, starting for the Chicago Bears. And this guy, Matthew Stafford, making his first start after being traded to the Los Angeles Rams. Matthew Stafford finally on a team that can win with a coach like Sean McVay, who knows how to win, who knows how to coach, who knows how to make very intricate offenses, and their defense led by this beast of a man in Aaron Donald, who pound for pound, probably one of the best, if not the best, defensive player of all time. But Chicago has a great defense too. They got one of the best pound for pound defensive players in the league right now too, in Khalil Mack. They're bringing back a lot of that secondary. Andy Dalton, he's the big question mark. Was it him or Fields? They decided to go with Andy Dalton. Matt Nagy could be playing for his job, could be coaching rather for his job this year. Probably is. Actually, definitely is coaching for this job, even though he's made the playoffs 2 of the past 3 years. He's coaching for his job, so he might be trigger happy as far as changing quarterbacks very early. We could even see it in this game. Who knows? But Andy Dalton right now, I think the Bears with Andy Dalton is not a... It's not Andy Dalton. It's more so I think this team is ready for someone like Justin Fields to take over. I think Justin Fields is ready to take over for this team. The fact that he isn't scares me. And it either means that the coaching is even more inept than I thought, or maybe there are things we don't see in training camp. But regardless, if Andy Dalton's a starter, which he is, I think Matthew Stafford shines out, balls out in his debut. They open up SoFi Stadium with a bang. 34-17 Los Angeles Rams on Sunday Night Football. Not eviscerating. It's going to be close for a while. I think in the fourth quarter, though, the Rams are just going to run away with it. They're gonna have fun there in SoFi. They're gonna have fun in Los Angeles with their team that they didn't have last year. But this is gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see how Matthew Stafford kind of matches up against a defense in the Bears that he's faced, that's faced him, that knows him from his time in Detroit. So there's a lot of things to take in there. Dan Campbell, of course, is going to be on the other sideline. Who knows? He might be going for kneecaps. He's the Lions head coach. I'm thinking Lions. But Sean McVay and Matt Nagy, there's no question about who the better coach is. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But I got the Rams opening up the stadium with a win this one. So yeah. That's just about it. I think I went through all the games. I did go through all the games. And yeah, it's just great to have football back. It's great to be spending time with you. I think it's good that we got this one out of the way. We got this first real take football talk out of the way. No more pressure. It's just smooth sailing from here talking about football. Regardless, my predictions are right here. Who cares who wins? Who cares well, except for tomorrow night when the Baltimore Ravens play, because Baltimore has to win every game. I don't care what anyone says. But no, in all reality, who cares who wins? Football is back. God help us, or God save us. God bless us. I don't know what I'm saying. It's still early. I haven't had coffee. Literally woke up 20 minutes before the stream, but I am here in live and in living color, loving football. Great to have it back. Missed it a lot. Really missed it. But it's just so fun to have it back. Like there's nothing like it's like the first day of school. Like football, like the first Sunday of football, like opening game, great, right? Thursday night football, yeah, it's great, but Sunday football is just something totally different. There's a different vibe, different energy. You already feel it in the air. You already feel it. Everyone knows it. Everyone knows it's coming. Everyone knows it's here, and everyone is just as excited for it, and you should be for good reason. And that's why I'm here giving you guys real takes on every single Sunday. Join us every Sunday morning. Monday. Again, I need to drink coffee before next week. I promise I will. But every single Sunday morning, right here, youtube.com/Real Take Sports. Hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. You guys got any last-minute questions in the chat? I will be more than happy to answer it, talk about it, shoot the shit for a little bit. But as far as games, I think we covered everything basically. But yeah, I mean, like my thing is though, I will say this one more thing about the Green Bay Packers New Orleans games. I got a big. I think Aaron Rodgers is gonna have a big game today. He's out to prove so much in this game. He's gonna have a big game. Oh, I'm joined in the chat by HMO Podcast. What's up, guys? HMO Podcast, by the way, you guys should also check them out. YouTube.com/HMO Podcast. They are amazing. They talk about a lot of stuff, NBA, NFL, just chilling with the boys. It is an amazing, fun time spending time with them. Just had a live stream with them, I believe, on Thursday for the game. Hoping to do more of those in the future, but we'll see whatever comes around. HMO in the chat asks, who makes the biggest splash in fantasy football today? Interesting question. So I know Austin Eckler is playing. He's a guy to watch out for in Austin Eckler. I think one person is going to surprise a lot of people, even though he's dealing with a little bit of a hammy injury. Mecole Hardman for the Chiefs. He's a guy who was not really well touted in the drafts. He's a guy who people didn't talk about, but if you listen to people who talk about him from the Chiefs organization, you listen to Pat Mahomes, you listen to Tyreek Hill, he is faster apparently than Tyreek Hill. He has now a more prominent role in that offense since Sammy Watkins went over to Baltimore. So look for him. Look for Mecole Hardman to be a guy. Maybe not this week, but down the line this season, he's going to be one of those big primetime splash, like coming out of almost nowhere types of fantasy football guys. Outside of that, I mean, this today, who else is playing? We got I'm trying to think. Aaron Rodgers, like I said, he's gonna have like 6 touchdowns today, so he's big for fantasy football today. Anyone playing in Nick Chubb definitely. That Chiefs Cleveland game is gonna be a shootout. I got Chiefs again in that 45-38. I think any player on either offense is going to be a good start today, so please start them. Travis Kelce, Pat Mahomes, you guys already know. I need like at least 4 touchdowns from in between you guys, but definitely need to watch out for that game and any players playing in there. Sit them. Definitely sit anyone on the Broncos or the Giants offense. Don't start any of them. Yeah, I don't trust it. Maybe Melvin Gordon. Maybe. Same thing with the Jags and Texans offense. Don't start any of them. Not worth it. That is Tank Bowl 101. Tank Bowl 500. That is like you're taking a college course. That is Tank Bowl like 404. The graduate level course of tanking is what those two teams are going for in the Texans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Even though the Jags already tanked and got Trevor, but they could be tanking too, man. If they tank, get the number 1 pick next year, you trade away a bunch of picks, you trade away that pick, you get a bunch of picks in return, you build a team. And that's what I think Tony Khan is doing up there in Jacksonville. And I refer to Tony Khan. He's the chief strategic officer. It's him and forgot the name of the GM. But that's, I think, the route they're going. They trade away everybody. They are all about like retooling and rebuilding this team in their vision. And look, one thing that Tony Khan, who is the guy from Jacksonville, one thing he knows how to do is build teams. Look what he did with AEW. It's a team. It's a team he's built there. Look what he's done with Fulham. So building teams is what they do. So we'll see how that goes for them today. Again, it's going to be, I think, a tough outing for both teams, but more so a tough outing for the Texans. I just don't believe that team in the Houston Texans knows what they are and who they are. They do not understand like what is going on. David Culley, love him. Baltimore guy, was our passing game coordinator last year. Love him to death. I see him as kind of like a placeholder coach because they kind of knew this was coming. They knew that they were rebuilding up when Deshaun Watson asked for a trade. They already got rid of DeAndre Hopkins in probably one of the worst trades in NFL history. It's gonna be tough, but I almost had the Jags winning that one by default because somebody had to win. Outside of that, one that might surprise people, Mac Jones. I'm gonna go on a limb and say Mac Jones. Mac Jones is probably. I think Mac Jones is gonna have a good game today. I think Mac Jones is gonna have a very good game today. Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of things that like run through my mind on a Sunday. I haven't even turned on like ESPN, so I don't even know like what everyone's talking about. I mean, actually, before I go, there are a few notes that I did like jot down that I wanted to mention here. So this is a report actually that I wanted to talk about from the Houston Texans organization. So this is reported by Adam Schefter, and this is about the Houston Texans. And I think it provides a little more insight as to what kind of happened over the offseason with what's his name, Deshaun Watson, right? And not even the offseason, but also what's kind of happening now and what the plan is for them. Because a lot of people kind of look at them and like, you guys really don't have a plan, do you? And I don't think they do. I think they're just they're in a wait and see mode. It's a game of chicken that's kind of gone on too long between them and Watson, and no one's winning. Nobody in that scenario is winning. Watson's obviously dealing with his stuff, and the Texans are dealing with, not being a good football team, not being a quality football team, not even being a football team, basically. But I did want to read out this report from Adam Schefter very quickly. It says right here, the Houston Texans sought a package of 6 players and draft picks from teams interested in trading for star quarterback Deshaun Watson over the past summer. Whether the package consisted of 1 player or 5 draft picks, 2 players or 4 draft picks, the Texans were unwilling to budge on their trade price for Watson, meaning they want a package of 6 in total. Watson, who remains on their roster, says will not be active for Sunday's season opening game against Jacksonville, but will be on the 53-man roster. The Texans do not plan to play Watson at all this season, but sources around the league believe the general manager, Nick Caserio, there we go. Nick Caserio will not trade the 3-time Pro Bowler for anything less than 6 combined players or picks. So that's from Adam Schefter, again, of ESPN, saying that the Houston Texans, again, they've doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down on this game of chicken they're playing with Deshaun Watson. Watson showed up to camp. He is not active. He still very actively wants a trade. That doesn't seem to be happening. We don't know what his legal status is at this point. So, and again, it's a steep asking price at this point for Deshaun Watson. The Texans are in a position where I think they just don't want to get rid of him. They want to make sure they can maximize what they get out of him in case Watson doesn't deal with legal issues. Again, those are serious things and that don't pertain too much to football, if we're being honest with you. That could keep him off the field. And I'm not trying to minimize that or anything, but they probably actually will keep him. They are keeping him off the field. What am I talking about? But he's someone he could, if he ends up on the commissioner's exempt list, I think that's the reason you're seeing other teams not willing to trade this huge price for Deshaun Watson. So it's, again, a game of chicken that I think has gone on too long. The fact that they still want 6 players for Deshaun Watson is a little bit surprising to me. A lot of it's surprising, honestly, because I'm just like, even Deshaun Watson 100%, right? 100%. Like, no legal issues. That's big if, again, no legal issues, whatever. It'd be tough. It'd be tough to get six combined players and draft picks. Like, it depends who the player is. Like, I will give you 6 freaking sorry, how about this? I'll give you 2 first-round picks and 4 who's a jabroni I can name? 4 Taylor Heineke's. Sure, he's not a jabroni. He's kind of good. 4 Kyle Allens. Big love to Kyle Allen, by the way. Hope you're doing healthy. Hope you're doing fine, man. Get healthy. But 4 Kyle Allens and 2 first-round draft picks, if that's the price, then yeah. But it depends what you mean. If they want 6 either starting level players or 6 draft picks, that's where I'm like, bro, that's too much. Even for Deshaun Watson, that's too much. You want me to gut my entire fucking team, gut my future for one guy, and then suck? Yeah, I'm not about it. Unless you're the Dolphins, maybe. But, I don't know. 6, that's a lot of players you got to trade. It's a lot of starting caliber players you got to trade. So the Texans, again, they are... I don't know what that team is. I don't know what they're going to do other than just lose for the next, 17, 18 weeks. They're just going to lose. Take mean L's. Team's going to be dropping deuces on the Houston Texans. And That's a sad thing. Again, if you guys got any questions in the chat, please hit me up. I am loving this, loving the attention, obviously, because I'm attention something. But yeah, no. Hit up the chat, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for daily videos, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Let's see what else is happening to Sunday. Oh, there was, I think, another piece of news that I wanted to share. So actually, this is not really a piece of news. It's just a bit of insight that Adam Schefter provided earlier in the day, or earlier this morning. Actually, I think he just sent this out like about 2 hours ago. So just give me 1 second as I get it up and pull it up. But it provided a little bit of insight on what the 49ers' strategy was when they were thinking about drafting at number 3 overall, and when they traded up, actually, to draft number 3 overall. So, again, let's talk about the 49ers right here. It says here from a report from Adam Schefter that one of the many reasons why the San Francisco 49ers traded up to the 3rd overall spot in this year's NFL draft was their belief that the New England Patriots would trade up to number 3 and beat them to Alabama quarterback Mac Jones. San Francisco wanted to position itself to select a quarterback for the future and believed there were multiple worthy candidates. But the 49ers also were concerned that the Patriots would leapfrog them in the draft and position themselves to select Jones before San Francisco could. 49ers considered a well-documented relationship between Bill Belichick and Nick Saban and knew that New England was doing legwork on the quarterback prospects in this draft. The Niners also believed that at the time Jones was the prospect that the Patriots identified as the potential quarterback of the future. This belief contributed to the Niners completing a late March trade that sent the three first-round picks to Miami in exchange to move up to number 3 overall, gave them the ability to draft Jones or other quarterbacks, which they ultimately did. San Francisco ultimately decided, obviously, on Trey Lance as his preferred quarterback, and Jones went to New England anyway. So without the Patriots having to surrender a pick. So that just kind of shows you, I think, a little bit of the draft mentality that can happen, where teams kind of position themselves or maybe overthink situations. Because, look, Patriots didn't lift a finger. They still got Mac Jones anyway. But 49ers had to trade away a lot of draft picks for the future to invest in Trey Lance. So, I don't know. That was just a piece of insight. Again, if you guys don't have any more questions, I'm probably gonna end the stream. And above all my predictions, all that stuff out the window. Football is back, people. Enjoy it. Love it. Hang out with your friends. Do it safely. Go out to a restaurant. Go out to a bar. Whatever you do, and go have fun. Go have fun. Football is back. Forget about the problems and just enjoy the distraction of football. I'll see you same time, same place. Real Take Wrestle Talk on Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Real Take Sports Talk on Wednesday nights, around 7 p.m. And, of course, now every week throughout the NFL season, Real Take Football Talk live here Sunday mornings. We love you. We'll see you again. Hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Later.